You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host David Story. On the line now, we have Anna Mudd. She is assistant to the national president of the National Association of Letter Carriers, and she is talking to us today about the repeal of the prefunding mandate that the Postal Service has. It's a very important issue. We've talked about it on the show before, but it has been a long time. So Anna's going to give us a refresher and talk to us about the fight to get it repealed in this congressional session. Anna, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Oh, thank you guys for having me on. I'm honored to be a part of the show and look forward to talking to everybody down there about some of the issues facing the Postal Service.
Let me just say this to start. It is so nice to talk to somebody with a Southern accent.
I get that everywhere I go. When I travel up north, they tell me I have an accent, and I tell them, no, they're the ones with the accent.
That's right.
So I'm proud of my roots. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I live in southern Indiana now, and very proud of it, and don't try to shy away from it.
Yeah, you can the Southern accent, especially Kentucky. It sounds like Loretta Lynn. So that's awesome.
Coal miner's daughter there.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, we love it. We love our Yankee brother Adam, but we love our Southern folks too. So we're both of us born and raised here in Alabama. Love seeing some kinfolks on the show. So Anna, you are, like we were just talking about, you're from the South, but you ended up in the labor movement. What's up with that?
Well, I joined the Postal Service back in '96, so I'll be a letter carrier for 25 years come next month. And I grew up in a non-union household. My dad was an auto mechanic, barely made enough to feed us. We relied on the food banks and pantries and the schools to do the clothing drives for my two sisters and myself. Sometimes to get by. I remember going to yard sales and that kind of thing for clothing. So when I became an employee at the Postal Service and discovered they had a union, it was kind of a no-brainer on wanting to get involved with that. Just carried mail for quite a while, and then started seeing some of the issues on the work floor facing letter carriers. And we have a lot of members that are just don't really have a voice for themselves. They want to lay low, not rock the boat, not want to stir up any trouble. And I kind of, was known as the loudmouth on the workroom floor, to be honest. And, was told, well, can you go talk to the supervisor about this? And I just wanted to really be a voice for my fellow letter carriers in there and try to help right some of those wrongs. Our letter carrier union is one of the great postal unions for the post office, and really strong union, really believe in what they're for. They put their members first, and just really wanted to be a part of that. The way I grew up, I didn't want my fellow workers to have to go back to any of that, and wanted to just kind of be a voice and believe in what unions do and the quality of life that they give their workforce.
Yeah. That's beautiful, strong, correct, and right. So thank you, Anna, for your service to the workers of this country and your work in the labor movement. So let's talk about the prefunding mandate. What is it?
The prefunding mandate is something that has burdened the Postal Service since 2006. You might have heard the Postal Accountability and Enhancement Act was passed into law. And basically, it's a mandate that the Postal Service pre-fund decades worth of retiree health benefits for people that haven't even been hired or born yet, not even employed with the Postal Service. And it's unique to the post office because we're the only public or private sector that has this mandate placed upon us. Yeah. So, in 2006, when it was passed, the post office was going strong, everybody loves the post office, still do. But then the recession hit shortly after, a couple years after. And, like the rest of the country, it placed a big burden on us as well. And the payment is about a little over $5 billion a year, and we've lost probably over the last 14 years. It accounts for about 84% of the losses for the post office. So what we've done, we've been trying to repeal this prefunding mandate through legislation, as long as I can remember. We were doing very well with that last Congress. Last February, we actually had a law passed in the House. It was HR 2382, and it passed overwhelmingly. I think it was about 309 voted in favor of it, and only 106 congressmen voted against it. And what's great about that and brilliant about that is all the lobbying that we've done with our members of Congress in the country to educate them about how burdensome this prefunding mandate is. And that passed with bipartisan support, which our union really, really believes in, is in favor of. Yeah. The Postal Service is an American entity. It serves the American public, from the east to the west coast, north to south, no matter what political party or what kind of personal beliefs you have. Right. The Postal Service serves everyone. And we firmly believe that we just need to get in there and let these congressmen know how hard this mandate has hit the Postal Service and how we need to get out from under it to look toward the future and to start having the ability, the capability financially to do some of the things that will move us back to be where we're not worried about, are we going to shutter the doors or what our future looks like. So we're working on that. Like I said, it passed the House back February of 2020, and we were working on educating our members in the Senate and speaking with them about the prefunding mandate and trying to get it moved forward to where we could get it passed into law. And then, as you guys know, and everybody in the country knows, the COVID-19 pandemic hit, late February, early March, and everyone's focus shifted to trying to keep themselves safe, their family safe, their business afloat, and the Postal Service was no stranger to that. We were still out there every day, 7 days a week, delivering the mail on the front lines for the American public, because that's what we do as letter carriers. It was really not a thought in our head that we didn't want to keep delivering for the public, because we knew that a lot of people weren't going out. They were staying at home. A lot of people were losing their jobs. And we wanted to be there to provide for them. And the way we did that was, bringing their medicine still. A lot of people were ordering their groceries online. We wanted to continue to do that. So unfortunately, our education to the Senate kind of took a backslide to that. The House of Representatives, the Senate, the administration, they were, trying to feel their way through this pandemic as well. So unfortunately, the bill did not move any further last year in the 116th Congress. But fortunately, we continue to lobby, and the bill to repeal the prefunding mandate has been reintroduced in this 117th Congress in the House and the Senate. In the House, it is HR 695, and so far, as of this morning, it has 257 bipartisan co-sponsors already on the bill. And in the Senate, it is S-145. And like I said, our focus has been in the House on it right now. We're looking to maybe get that moved forward and try to get as many co-sponsors, upwards of that 300 mark like we had last Congress, and maybe try to bring it to the floor for a vote again. And then we feel fairly confident that we can work on it in the Senate and have bipartisan support there as well. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going to say it's important for listeners to point out, because you kind of glossed over this prefunding for decades, and it's important for listeners to understand. If I could break it down for just a second, is this prefunding is basically what Congress did then in an attempt to privatize the U.S. Post Office was require the Postal Service to prefund to have in savings. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was 75 years of medical and retirement benefits for every postal carrier, every worker in the United States. And so when the listeners think about this, put that into perspective of what your budget would be like if you're making monthly health care and 401k or pension contributions
for 75 years.
For 75 years.
You're literally having to save for postal workers that aren't even born yet, right, Anna?
Yeah, it's for retiree health benefits, 75 years into the future, like you said, and that's a big burdensome payment. Most, pretty much everyone in America is on a pay-as-you-go, and that's simply what we want to do. We want to be on equal footing with everyone else, not have that yearly payment hanging over our head. And we had put nearly $50 billion in there and have amassed that before we had to not be able to make those payments anymore because we simply weren't making enough money to make them, and we had exhausted our borrowing limit with the U.S. Treasury. So we've got enough in there that 10 to 15 years we could still fund these retiree health benefits. And so we just simply want to pass legislation to where we don't have this mandate hanging over our head, and that we would be on a pay-as-you-go, same as everyone else. And I'm glad you brought that point up, because a lot of people look at the Postal Service like it's archaic now. People use the internet, they pay their bills online. But you guys know down there in rural Alabama, the same as where I'm from in rural Kentucky, we have a lot of folks still that rely on the mail and really want to see their postal carrier every day. Not everyone uses the internet. Kentucky doesn't have, a whole lot of internet capability in a lot of the Appalachian Mountains and the rural areas. My family's from, Clinton County, Kentucky, which they still don't have good internet down there in some of my relatives' homes. And this past year during the COVID pandemic has really brought that to light about how much the American public still relies on the Postal Service. And a lot of people want to see us thrive well into the future. And your all show talks about union brotherhood and the union fighting for American workers. And that's what we do. I can retire in 10 years, but as a union advocate, I want to fight for those people that are just now coming in the door, our city carrier assistants that are on a path to career. I want to fight for them. I want the post office to be here well after I'm gone, and maybe one of them sitting on a talk show here with somebody in 20 years talking about the Postal Service and how it is still providing for the American public. And that's what our union does. We want to look out for the people that are just coming in the door. We want to make sure that the post office thrives and is there to provide that service for the American public, because service is in our name, and that is what we still want to provide. That's what we believe in, and we're going to continue to fight for it. And a lot of that is through education, and it's education getting out to the regular people that may not know some of the issues facing the Postal Service because they don't hear about it, and your show is a good way to do that.
Thank you.
And the thing is, not everybody can afford to pay $18 or $20, and no disrespect to the privatized industries, but not everybody can afford to pay that to go out and send a letter. And if you don't send a letter, to ship something. I mean, it's substantially lower, and y'all's hands are tied. If people say, well, why can't they just raise a little bit more money? Well, guess what? The Postal Service don't get to set the rates. So y'all are forced to pre-fund this, and then you rely on Congress to set the rates. So it's a double whammy on y'all.
Yeah. And we're going to be talking some more to Anna Mudd, assistant to the national president of the National Association of Letter Carriers, about this issue and more on the other side of the break. Stay tuned. You are listening to the Valley Labor Report.
You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
You call the principal J-Rig, add it up. You call the first, add it up. You call the principal J-Rig, add it up. You call the...
All right, folks, welcome back to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host David Story on the line. We've got Anna Mudd. She is assistant to the national president of the National Association of Letter Carriers. We're talking about the prefunding, the repeal of the prefunding mandate, which if you just got in your car, you're listening now, what it does is it requires the Postal Service to pre-fund retiree health costs and benefits for 75 years in advance. That is a requirement that no other federal agency, no other private entity has to do, but they put that on the Postal Service, and so that accounts for the vast majority of debt. You always hear folks about talking about, oh, the Postal Service is in debt. Oh, the Postal Service is in debt. That accounts for, she said, 80%, more than 80% of the debt that the Postal Service has had to take on since it passed in 2006.
Maybe we should get Congress to do the same thing for Congress. Let's refund Congress and the staffers for 75 years.
Yeah. Well, so
how quick will we shut down then?
Yeah, right. So they have been, obviously, because this is an extremely onerous requirement on the Postal Service. They've been trying to get it repealed ever since it passed. And last year it passed the House with bipartisan support. And I was talking to Anna yesterday about this, and she said that our very own Mo Brooks voted for the repeal. And so this really goes to show you the bipartisan support that the repeal has. Yeah. And so you said that you've already got 250-something co-sponsors on the repeal in the House. How's it looking to getting it on the floor, getting it passed through the House, getting it passed through the Senate, and what can folks do to make sure that happens?
Well, Jacob, I'm sorry. When we were speaking yesterday, I had said that Mo Brooks voted in support of that. I meant to say that it was Mike Rogers. We had three of the congressmen in Alabama voted in favor of it last year.
Adderholt,
Mike
Sewell,
Rogers,
and Rogers,
Martha Roby, and Terry Sewell. But we feel very confident that, like I said, we have the bipartisan support. And what we were talking about earlier is how much the American public and the members of Congress now know how important the post office is. And for all of the bad negativity with the COVID-19 and all of the losses and everything that everybody has had to sustain, the COVID-19 pandemic did bring to light how important the Postal Service is. And that bipartisan support is what is important. All of our members of Congress are starting to realize that this mandate can be corrected and that we can maybe repeal that through legislation and have the money to invest in our infrastructure, our vehicles, some of our facilities, and continuing to serve the American public that way. And we're pretty confident with the new administration that we're going to be able, hopefully, to get in there and meet in person. We have a great structure there in Alabama. We've got a great state president of the National Association of Letter Carriers. Her name's Antonia Shields. We have several congressional liaisons there, and they're kind of our voices for the NALC in our different districts in the congressional areas in the different states. And we could use the public's help for them to let their congressmen and women and their senators know how important the post office is to them and how much they have utilized the Postal Service and will continue to rely on them. You know, your letter carrier is your friend. It's your letter carrier. You look forward to seeing them every day, and they're the eyes and ears pretty much in your neighborhoods. We have carriers across the country that have, saved people from burning houses, have seen some of their customers, not retrieving their mail, and they've reported that, and maybe the customer is in there. We've kind of pay attention to packages missing, to people lurking around, children that are out, wandering. We are the eyes and ears of the community, and that is something that is not really talked about when you talk about the Postal Service. But your letter carrier is there 7 days a week, every house, on every street, in every neighborhood. And some of those issues that we want to continue to provide, the 6-7 day delivery, your door-to-door delivery, we want to go to every door every single day. We want to stay, to where we aren't privatized. I noticed David has the U.S. Mail Not for Sale shirt on, and I love that. I wanted to comment on that the minute I opened this up on the Zoom call, because I've got a couple of them in my drawer. But we appreciate that, and that's what we do as unions. We help our fellow unions in their time of need, and we appreciate all of the other union support in helping us get the word out about the post office is here to stay. And it's just some of the issues that we need to really, educate our congressmen and women on to do the right thing. And I think we're well on our way to passing this law to repeal the prefunding mandate and come into the future with the Postal Service and continue to provide for the American public, which is what it's all about on behalf of the NALC. That's why we do what we do. It's so we can continue to serve the American public through the Postal Service.
And it's important to point out, you brought up at the beginning of the show, or at the beginning of the episode, that your family relied on a lot of the food banks and a lot of the things like that. And I don't know the exact date, but I think it's sometime in May. I certainly know it's sometime in spring. The letter carriers is always doing a food drive at their mailbox, and should point that out, that y'all do a lot of great work in the community besides the service that you provide carrying mail. And like you said, helping out members, but that food drive is like the most amazing food drive in the nation, for certain. I would wager to say in the world that there's more. I don't know how many pounds, but I follow it every year and kind of look it up, and it's just like, wow, it's unbelievable the amount of food that y'all help out in the communities with.
Yeah, and that's a really important part of like Anna, like you said, the labor movement. Helping out our brothers and sisters in the labor movement and in our community. If you go back through our YouTube page, we've interviewed iron workers and electrical workers and talked about some of the stuff that they've done for free in their community, and it's really great working people being able to support themselves, help themselves, and help their neighbors, and that's the kind of thing that unions can do for folks when they are able to lift themselves out of poverty. Letter carriers are not having to go to, that it's a real living wage now that letter carriers have, and of course, they can make more, but it's not.
And they're the largest private employer of veterans in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so much important stuff. So, Anna, we've got about a minute left. Have you got any closing thoughts for the audience about this issue and about the letter carriers?
Well, I just want to say thank you guys first and foremost for bringing this issue to light and letting us have the opportunity to get on here and educate the public on what is facing the Postal Service, and to remind them to let their representatives know how much they still know and love us and utilize us. But I want to give a shout out to all my brothers and sisters that are still out there carrying mail 7 days a week. This COVID-19 pandemic has been hard on all of them, but they're still out there because they believe in the service they provide. You talked about the food banks. That's the second Saturday in May. It's going to be moved back a little bit this year again, I believe, because of the COVID-19, but we're still doing, food banking behind the scenes virtually and telephonically and that kind of thing. But I do want to, just let them know that the representation they give us day in and day out with the American public is something that really keeps us going and keeps everybody a favorable light toward the post office. We might have some different service issues and this and that might be Anna, a rarity here
Anna,
or there.
Thank you very much for talking to us. We're coming up. Bye. So thanks for tuning in, folks. Here's an announcement right at the top. This Saturday and every Saturday, the North Alabama DSA holds a necessities drive from 3 to 5 p.m. at the IBEW Local 558 Union Hall on Clinton Avenue, right across from Yellowhammer and Campus 805 in Huntsville. So if you're in the area and you want to drop off some clothes, some non-perishable food items, blankets, PPE, then swing by the IBEW Local 558 558 Union Hall on Clinton Avenue in Huntsville, Alabama, right across from Campus 805 and Yellowhammer Brewing from 3 to 5 p.m. every Saturday, and that means this Saturday. The donations are all forwarded to the Manna House, so they're going to a good place. You can follow at DSA North Alabama on Twitter for more information. So if you want to see what we're up to throughout the week, get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/The Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. David is on Twitter at Radical Unionist. That's spelled RADICL Unionist. If you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, you can search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. You can go back and watch the full show there, and we do clip segments and release them throughout the week. So if there's just one thing you want to watch, you can find it there without having to watch the whole show. We also upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps. So to see if we are on your listening platform of choice, go to thevalleylaborreport.transistor.fm/subscribe. We've got a website where you can get our fantastic USA union-made hats. That is thevalleylaborreport.org. They are $35. That includes shipping, and it's really good. It's really good, folks. It's a good hat. I wear it all the time, even though it's a bit cheesy to wear your own merch. I wear it because it's a good hat. Another way to support us is if you appreciate our work and want to help us stay on the air, you can make a monthly donation to the show on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report.